On Friday, we celebrated the solemnity of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And it's amazing, not only that God became man, but that he had a human body with a human heart and human blood vessels and a human stomach and a human everything. Just like you, sitting there in the pews, his heart, your heart is pumping away. Jesus himself had a human heart that pumped his precious blood for 33 years. Thinking about the human heart and all of our organs, actually, it always astounds me because it's always there in your chest. And if everything goes according to plan, it's always beating. Our cardiovascular system is basically a giant pressurized pump. Oxygen-poor blood is called to the heart. The right side of the heart collects and pumps the blood to the lungs. The lungs refresh the blood with oxygen. Oxygen-rich blood then enters the side of the heart, and it's sent out into the rest of the body to provide oxygen to the muscles and tissues and other organs. And this is happening constantly, again and again and again. Your heart beats an average of 100,000 times a day. That's about 35 million times a year. You can do the math if you want. I just Googled that beforehand, so I'm trusting that. 35 million heartbeats a year. The heart calls the tainted, useless blood to itself. It transmits new life through the lungs, and it sends it out to heal and nourish the rest of the body. Do you see where I'm going with this? At the sight of the crowd, Jesus' heart was moved with pity for them because they were troubled and abandoned, like sheep without a shepherd. The original Greek translation of this passage is even more explicit. It can be translated as, Jesus' insides were moved with pity for the crowds because they were like sheep, mangled, harassed, and helpless. Not only is the Sacred Heart of Jesus stirred with pity, but his very bowels, his insides, his guts are turned around by the compassion and concern and love that he has for his sheep. So what does he do? Well, he himself has the power of God at his disposal. He himself can teach and preach and cure and heal. And he does. But he doesn't stop there. Because just like our human hearts calling all that useless blood back to itself, he calls 12 sinful, ordinary dudes to himself to be transformed, refreshed, cleaned, and then sent out to the rest of the body. In the ancient Greek world, when describing heroes, authors like Homer used what's called epithets. That's a nickname that adds glory to the person's name. For instance, we call Abraham Lincoln Honest Abe. Elvis Presley is the king of rock and roll. James Brown is the godfather of soul. The gospel readers who were reading Matthew, they would have been familiar with the mighty Hercules or Hector, breaker of horses. But let's look how the apostles are described. What are their epithets? Matthew, the tax collector. James and his brother John. Simon, a zealot from Cana. Judas, the betrayer. There's nothing glorious or heroic about these titles. But you know what? Jesus still chose them. He saw them. He liked them. He wanted to be with them, and he invited them to join in his mission to go transform the world while being transformed themselves. Your heart pumps 35 million times every year. The constant cycle of refreshing tired blood and sending it out to the rest of your body. The same cycle happens every single week. We come to this church and we are called to this sacred altar. We sit in silence before the monstrance. And you have the option 45 minutes before every single Mass to be refreshed with the sacrament of confession. We eat his flesh, we drink his blood, and we are transformed. And then at the end of Mass, we are sent out. Go in peace, glorifying the Lord with your life. And then you'll come back next week to do it all over again. Your blood needs to come back to the heart. It cannot serve the rest of the body on its own when it runs out of oxygen. Same reason we come back here over and over and over again. The Sacred Heart of Jesus never gets tired of calling, refreshing, and sending over and over and over again. Finally, Jesus tells us the harvest is abundant, but the laborers are few. So ask the master of the harvest to send out laborers for his harvest. So not only is he calling us, beloved sinners, to join him in his mission, he's inviting us to invite others and pray for them as well. We need more full-time teachers for the school. We need a coordinator of youth and family ministry. We need more members of the teen choir. We need more workers for the fair stand. We need more ministers of care to take the Eucharist to the homebound. And Jesus can provide and do these things with just one word. But I believe he dignifies us by inviting us to work and pray and beat our hearts alongside of him. I pray that today's Eucharist will transform us and refresh us. I pray that every single one of your 35 million or so heartbeats this year, your heart will beat with the same compassion and love of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Amen.